All right, we are live. Just realized I did not check the microphone settings, so hang on for just a second because sometimes they do awful things to me. There we go. So there we go. But welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. I'm starting basically live streaming Monday through Thursday for sure, every day. And every day I'll have a theme. And I decided that Mondays we'll talk a little bit of philosophy, morality, ethics. So there's all of that we're going to do on the Stoic Atheist. The Stoic Atheist was the name I almost named this channel um, way back, 5 years ago now. And so, yeah, it almost became the Stoic Atheist, but I went with the Rabyd Atheist because I figured that would get more notice. Although every time somebody comes here, you're not all that rabid, but that's okay. I have mascots that are. So, but before we begin, let's see who's here already. Iron was the first one to talk. And we have John from Holland. Martin is here. Let's see. We got Paul from Russia, I believe. And Rimmer is here. Cranky Elder God. Hi, all. Not me. Not today. Anyway, not so far. And then Anne Marie. All right. And let's see. Oh, yep. Who else is here? Lisa is here. And Wolf is here as well. All right. So just a few announcements while a few more people are arriving. I think Katie just got here. Yep, Katie just got here. Welcome. And A. Chapman. All right. Welcome, everybody. A few announcements. Do have a goal in the super chat. Goal for the week is 20. So, and at different stages, different things happen. After 5, I'll get rid of ads. After 10, we'll have a video reaction live stream on Friday. Everything's kind of conditional at the end of the week. How much of my weekend time I want to take up streaming and how much I want to work on videos instead. So that's all up to you. I have not seen it yet. I have not seen that yet. So I have not seen Paula Gia's video today. I'm sure it was good. All right. That's bad. So that's what's going on there. Of course, Rapid Fire will be tomorrow, where it's more open forum, and theists don't take advantage of that. And then I will do Thursday. The deconversion hangout is still there. It's just I've decided for those of you, I know Martin's here. For those of you mods that are here, I'll remind mods that day that the theists need to be kept at a minimum on Thursdays. But today is kind of normal moderation procedures. So there's that. Then you have Wednesday. I struggled to do it Wednesday because I have therapy on Wednesdays that lasts till about 5:50. But I think I'm still going to do the live stream those days. Just pop from my therapy session to the live stream because it'll be a Bible study. And what I'll be doing there is basically taking the Bible study video I drop during the week before that and going over it live. So, and answering live questions for it. I really like answering questions this way because I give a more complete answer than doing something. So there's that aspect. Oh, that ought to be good. I'll have to watch that later. I usually watch everything Paul does. So mostly because the minimum witness theory of his is just fascinating to me as somebody with a Bible studies, a biblical studies degree. So, and a theological studies degree. Because it was stuff I debated about when I used to be a Christian. So, and Anne's reminding you all to smash the like button to do that. So what's a Stoic Atheist? What am I going to start out the week with the the theme that almost was the title of this channel, the name of this channel. One of the common accusations as an atheist that I get is that I have no basis for morality, that I have no, I don't know why theists make this accusation, but they often do, that we have no morality, no basis for it. And I also wanted to get back to something a little bit more personal. My journey into philosophy was a deconversion issue, because it was like, okay, what do I do now? How do I have morality? And what I discovered was there's actually a lot of stuff that you can do philosophically, worldview wise, that doesn't have anything to do with God. Okay. So yeah, it is a tiring claim, but it's also one of those things that I think is so constant, you have to address it with theists, because from a deconversion point of view, that's one of the concerns that a lot of people deconverting that I've discovered have. Okay, what do I believe now? What do I go for now? And I'm like, well, you have a lot of options. And I think the whole point of Monday's broadcast will be to point out the many, many options you have without God. For me, it ended up being Stoicism combined with a little bit of minimalism. I've become very pragmatic on my philosophy. So uh, it's, I've discovered something about philosophy. People tend to gravitate towards stuff that helps them and helps them work. But when it comes to the discussion on morality with theists and people, particularly people deconverting, it's something that comes up often. How do I base my life without a God? And it's something that it's something that I kind of dogged me when I first deconverted. Okay, well, what do I base my morality on now? I'm done with the 10 Commandments. I'm done with Jesus's teachings. I'm done, because that's another issue entirely, which I hope to address in Questionable Witnesses as time goes by, of how I don't find Jesus's teachings to be all that moral anymore, or that he's borrowing anything good. So, my objectively moral systems is moral to hurt others for a good reason is protecting your life, well-being, and property. Yes. I think that's probably where most people dwell, actually, in reality. But it's like Epicureanism with, see, what you guys are doing is proving my point that everybody kind of goes. The point is there are options. And I think what most theists don't realize is once you discard the God authoritarian type morality, you have a lot of options to follow that are all good. Okay. I think the thing I want to clear up with this stream every Monday is that you can have a moral system that's perfectly fine without a God, and it can go a lot of different directions. And I think that's one of the things. Yeah, I saw that, man. I saw that with a good reason. Yes, I saw that you had the typo. I tried to correct it, and I think I screwed it up myself. So it's okay. I understood what you meant. It's like it's immoral to hurt anybody without a good reason, and those good reasons are to protect yourself. I think that's a very, very libertarian view, a non-aggression principle type view. Which is, the only proper use of force is to protect one's life, liberty, or, other rights, and to protect oneself against fraud and protect somebody else as well, not just yourself. So being concerned about individual rights and protecting them is the only proper use of force. And I think and there's also the idea of graduated force in that as well. Like, you don't kill somebody for just lying to you or trying to deceive you, kind of thing. You meet the thing with the thing. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. Not necessarily moral. It's why I use a graduated system. Like, you don't escalate beyond what the attack is. So that's kind of that. Being a heathen, I feel like reminding Christians on how to be Christians. Yeah, my ethics are intact. I find that that's funny because I get that accusation all the time when it comes to morality. Um, like, oh, you must be in some sort of secret sin. I'm like, no, man, I think I'm more Christian than I was before, if you want to call it Christian. I mean, when you get to the heart of Christian ethics, like the teachings of Jesus and stuff, they're not as moral as they like to think they are. But like, as far as Christian morality, the standard thoughts about it, pulled away from the Bible and just the social context. Yeah, I'm probably more Christian and less tempted by things than I was before. It's really interesting how if you get rid of the sin concept in morality, that it doesn't draw you in as much. It's the forbidden fruit thing that keeps getting people into it. So, so there's that. Yeah, your ethics are also intact. See, so there's that. Get even first. Okay, I'm not sure that's a good ethic. That might have problems. I'm just saying, cranky elder god. Problems for you. I think the thing about aggressive ethics, is that people need to think about the unintended consequences, and often people don't. That could be bad in that. I don't know. I live in an armed society. Okay. Um, there's people always ask me about what it's like to live in a society where guns are everywhere, and it's like, I don't know. Honestly, if I look at the other side of the statistics, like I'm trained to, millions and millions and millions of gun owners didn't kill anybody today. So there are perks to being an elder god. Okay, I suppose that's true. And if you're gonna follow Cthulhu ethics, I guess you have a valid point. I mean, because it is all about violence and madness, isn't it? So at that point, uh, throwing lightning, things you can't see. Oh, there you go. There you go. But yeah, so this is an accusation that comes up often. Now I'm going to kind of answer that. This is just an introductory live stream. Next week I'll probably have a question um, related to the topic. The idea here is to have a running discussion on morals, out values, ethics, philosophy, whatever comes up. Yeah, exactly. No lives matter. So. Let's see. When I sought ethics, the meaning was helping good people make good decisions when the best decisions aren't always clear. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good definition. I think as an atheist, the struggle isn't am I pleasing God anymore? It's more of am I actually doing any good here? And you know, a theist pull charge. You don't have any basis for it, but it's like I have more bases for my ethic and moral systems now than I had before, because I actually have to think if something is harmful to somebody else. I have to actually think about, okay, is this a good decision from a moral point of view? Am I helping somebody or not? Um, am I also being protective of myself? Because I think with like authoritarian ethics that the church gives you, you end up self-sacrificing yourself to your own detriment when there could be other avenues that you could take that benefit others and yourself at the same time. Decisions aren't always clear. You are absolutely correct about that, and so it's like it's kind of fine. Uh, uh, I don't think that utilitarians actually, in that sense, and solve the issue. That's why my philosophy is kind of all over the place. Okay, I think the problem with utilitarianism is is exactly what you're pointing out, because at some point you got to get to how do we do this without enslaving the individual? How do we benefit millions of people without through freedom of people? And so I could also argue with that question, what if freeing one slave across the world helps millions of people? Should we do it? And automatically we say yes. Okay. So um, So it's that aspect of it. I don't know. I don't think that becomes moral to me. Slavery is one of those things I fight against hard. So I believe much more that liberty benefits everybody much more than that. So yeah, yeah, it's a humanist thing. Oh, hello, Earl. By the way, your uh, Fang's bunny is active as an emoji, and we can all see if you look at the live stream in the bottom corner. That's Earl's artwork. Is That's the now official symbol of the channel. So I wanted to give a shout out to Earl when she arrived. Thank you very, very, very much. so, um, and I've kind of put a bug in her ear about future projects, but I will let her go as her artistic spirit leads her. So, so there's that. But welcome, Earl. And so there's that. So there's that. And Azo has arrived. Thanks, Azo, for being here, as always. Ronald, one of our newer members, thank you for being here. So there's that. All right. The strange thing about it is when I do my own emojis, they don't appear on StreamYard. So it's kind of weird like that. Yeah. What did Rimmer say? Yeah, it might need a little less background opacity, but it's up there now. We'll see. We'll see how it works. Um, we'll see what happens. Yeah, you can't see the fangs because they're too small. That's the whole point, Rimmer. It's a cute little rabbit until you look really, really close. And then you find out it's not. Um, see, what a theist could say at some point is you fall back on a subjective opinion, deciding whether something is justified. Well, then my counter has always been how is your God's commands objective? They're subject to the God. I think it's their real poor understanding of subjectivity when it comes to moral discussions. In order to have an objective morality, it can't have anything to do with a God. It has to stand outside of God, that even God follows it because it's an objective standard. Which is why, like, the God of the Bible fails at having an objective standard because he doesn't follow his own standard. Um, the fact that he breaks his own laws and violates his own rules indicates there's a subjectivity to them based on him. So that doesn't solve the problem either. I pointed that out to people who like authoritarian ethics, where you have to have an authority, divine command ethics, and it's like, no, that doesn't work because it's still subjective. So, yeah. Freeing one's slave is an interesting example. The argument during the Civil War is about reimbursement for the slave owners being deprived of their property. We did pay owners in Maryland. Yes, actually, that happened all over. When the British banished slavery in their entire empire, they also paid slave owners for the benefit of, for the problem of losing their property. Now, one would argue that they shouldn't have been property in the first place. I would have argued that, and that you owe them nothing, just free them, just do the right thing. But I think it smoothed over a lot of hard feelings and thoughts of revolution by doing it. But the freeing, to me, liberty is always far more of an advantage because then the person is also free to pursue their own interests and they're happier. So there's that. Can't see the logo. That's funny. It's up there for me, so it's there. So we'll have to see what we can do with it, but it's up there and we can alter it. So, all right. Yeah, it kind of lacks the system part. You're basically stuck with whatever the God says there is, and that's the big issue for me with divine command theory. So, it's there because of God says so. And so there's no system in the sense where you're trying to think about different issues because you're divine commanded into whatever issue there is. So, yeah, it's a watermark in the corner. So I don't know why it's not appearing. Some people, I don't know, maybe your settings are different, but it appears on mine. So, yeah, it's the subject. It makes it subject for this purpose, and that's the problem. Modern atheism. It's like it's once you get that across to the theists, they have a real problem. Um, you know, coming up with an objective standard because I don't think objective ethics exists. We're always constantly evaluating ethics and ethical systems, and I don't think that's a bad thing anymore. I used to think as a theist that if you didn't have objective morality, you could just do whatever you wanted, but I don't know of any subjective system of ethics that you can just do whatever you want either. There's always society that's going to push back. There's always going to be the other things that's this. There's always people holding you accountable. Your family holds you accountable. Society holds you accountable. The government holds you accountable. Um, just and yourself. I think a lot of times what's missed in this is the fact that a lot of the things that you do is because I don't want to do them. I don't think that they're right myself, and so I don't do them. I've used the example before from the old movie Short Circuit, where number five basically says to the character, the scientist who's testing, well, who told you it was wrong to kill? And his response is, I told me. It's like, I think becomes an innate moral sense in all of us where there are certain things that we don't do. So, so there's that. Most theists say interacts their clear divine command theory. The God operates for the greater good model is also utilitarian. That's a very interesting, fascinating idea that God works within subjective ethics himself and is just trying for a greater good. And so he gives commands as a way of following for the greater good. I suppose that makes it a little bit better because God doesn't violate his commands so much as he's just working for a greater good. So, uh, let's see. Anything with a mind as a subject, yes, then that's the point. Yeah, if they're a bit, it's an admission of God, but it's also an admission they don't really understand the philosophical concepts of subjective and objective. I would say that philosophy has been looking for an objective moral standard for a long time and has failed. Um, I think we can create objective rules like don't kill people because everybody has this subjective desire to live. Don't enslave people because everybody has a subjective desire to be free. I think you can get some good objective rules that meet everybody's subjective criteria. And so that's kind of the where I head most of the time. But I think the whole objective subjective discussion is off the table for me because I just don't think objective ethics exist. But we can come up with a good ordered society, and actually subjectivity is better because now we're considering everybody's situation and our relationship. You need more carrots? Okay. I never even thought about it. Earl, we could have thrown some carrots in all this artwork too. Just I don't know, carrots that are bleeding or something. I don't know. Yeah. He has no real God, but uses the name of God to get his own way. Yeah, that's one theory that I studied in seminary, actually, that there was the criticism of the Abrahamic gods, Yahweh, that maybe he was just something that people created to justify their actions. So the Yahweh character of God commits genocide and does all those other things because the characters that wanted to use them also did those things. Well, if God does it, it's okay for me to do it. And so the Abrahamic God becomes a very convenient tool to do any atrocity. because he can do what he wants. If I knew I had to debate Christians someday, knowing what I know now, I would have pursued a PhD in physics. If I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have this channel. I'd probably be being a rocket scientist for somebody, because I loved rockets. I love physics. Some sort of aerospace engineering would have probably been where I would have headed, but nope. I ended up here, calling the call of God. So. Let's see. The problem with divine command is that if God commanded to kill your neighbor, it would then make it moral. And that is the point I bring up with theists all the time, because it is subjective. It's subjective to whatever God wants. And whatever God wants means that if he wants it done and he tells you to do it, then it's moral to do it. So theists are kind of in a pickle when God orders the complete destruction of the Amalekites, for instance, because they have to say that that's a moral action to kill all those people, including pregnant women and babies, baby boys, and all that other stuff. So they're left with, so I don't know if it's on mobile devices. I think that might be your problem. I've got it on my screen on my computer though, so maybe that's the issue. Watermarks are kind of funky like that. YouTube does all kinds of things with them, so just keep get home, look on your computer, maybe it's there. So, but it might be a watermark issue with YouTube, so they do that. It doesn't appear on StreamYard either, so it does appear on the YouTube though. See what I saw something here. Yeah, that was kind of it's Chapman. This is a good example of what I'm talking about with divine command theory, because William Lane Craig did it was a good thing to kill those babies. It's like, what? And it's all because he's conditioned and indoctrinated to think if God says to do something, then it's good. And the problem, of course, with divine command theory at that point is, how do we know a person's hearing from God? Okay. They could be hearing from whatever they want and then justifying after the fact. I think John's point about, Yahweh being a justification, that these people really didn't have a God. They just used their God as a justification for their bad behavior. So it's that kind of mentality that you get. For me, the escape has always been, back then was, well, God wanted to do better things, but didn't have a choice. But now I'm like, no, there's better ethics where you actually consider the value of each person and you don't have to filter it through divine command theory. And it's one of the good things about leaving. So yeah, he was pretty disgusting about it. When William Lane Craig said that, I was like, that's completely disgusting. And he doesn't even realize it, because that's what he conditioned to say. And that's my real problem. So, divine command theory seems to be an implicit mission that the person doesn't have any morals. They're just a slave to authority. I think from a certain standpoint of somebody who used to indoctrinate people, I hear what you're saying. And I think I call divine command theory the easy button of morals and ethics, because it's a system. Well, in a sense, it's a system that you just plug and play. You don't have to do any work. Since becoming an atheist, I've had to do a lot more moral and ethical work. I've had to look at, okay, is my action actually causing any good? It might be good for me, but is it good for anybody else? I've had to think about those things. Okay. With divine command theory, you don't really have to think. Okay. And you don't, I think there is being a slave to authority. If God tells you, because we've had this happen with various crimes where you'll have the person, their defense is, well, God told me to do it. And somehow that makes it all right. And, we've seen it before where people said, if I didn't think God was watching me, I wouldn't behave morally well. Well, then don't lose your faith, please, until you figure this out. I hope you don't, because I don't want to see that. Now, for me, it's like, I give the Penn Jillette response. Yes, I've murdered all the people I've wanted. I've sexually assaulted all the people I've wanted to, and I've stolen all the things that I wanted to since I've been an atheist. And that number is 0. I haven't wanted to do any of those things. So it's kind of for them, it's kind of an admission that they don't have any moral framework without their God. And yeah, that's a problem. Okay, that's a problem. Hey, BS. Greater goods also, yes, it does introduce capable capacity for greater evils too. But hopefully that's mitigated by good ethical thoughts. So it's just a wash. Okay, that's possible. That's a good discussion item, I think. Is it just a wash? We make greater goods happen, so then that gives somebody else um, a greater passability for something evil. It might be true. Might be true. You're on it. All right. You're on the carrot thing. Yeah. See, I kind of suspected that it's not on mobile devices, but yeah. Yeah. So it's there. What a God that exists. If there was a God that existed, I would bank on Cthulhu. Okay. Because if I look at the world, this is just a nice little playground for some evil elder god. So I think cranky elder god is onto something. So vampire putty's eating black pudding. Yeah, it's on PC. That's what I figured. Yeah, your mobile devices probably don't have it, and that's sad. That makes me sad. So yes, I think I've seen something like that where yeah, God's okay, Jesus is okay, but it's his followers that seem to be questionable. So yeah, there's that. You have it on your mobile? Okay, so it must be selective. So maybe it's selective. It may depend on how big your screen is too. So I don't know. Yeah, he was blessed by God for destroying Israel because God used him as an instrument of his punishment of Israel. Yes. Uh, the prophets say that about the Assyrians and the Persians as well, that God used them to scourge his people, because they didn't do what he told them to do. And so Yahweh punishes them by enslaving them, having their women sexually assaulted. There's a whole list of things God says he allowed the Babylonians and other groups to do to them, to be thorns in their side and scourges for them when they became disobedient. So God has this real sadomasochistic, abusive relationship with his people. And divine command theory really plays into that. So, yeah, really, when you consider what William Lane Craig said there in that discussion, he doesn't have any morals. He doesn't have any morals of his own. He's taking all of his lead from his God, and so yeah, it's kind of sad. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, I thought you'd like to see it and how it looks. So, but I'm excited because we've reached a point where we're actually putting stuff up, and you can't really know what something's going to look like until you get it up there. So if you make some alterations and do it, I'll change it. Not a problem. So, see, that's the thing. I've studied the Bible way too much to realize that some of the things they did to kids, I laugh now whenever I hear people say that God is pro-life. I think my Mike When God's Killed series of videos kind of should have disproven that idea already. But God, allows a young pubescent girl to be sacrificed because of her father's vow. he demands Abraham sacrifice his son, until he's not going to do it, changes his mind about it. You have all kinds of stuff where God is said to demand the firstborn son, and you have to redeem that son in order to keep them from being killed, sacrificed. So it's the God Yahweh of Christianity and other Abrahamic religions has that problem. So child sacrifice is actually quite common back then. So, which is really weird. I think so. I think there was a claim at one time that she did what she did with God. There's plenty of stories of crimes and atrocities committed where people claim that God told them to do it. Yep, that's another one. Deanne Slaughter, Andrea Yates killed their children. If you want to see a lot of how religion affects mothers to not care about their kids, go look at religion. So there's that. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Filbert, how you doing? You can see it on your Android phone. That's interesting. Maybe some of you are still Appling it. So, if I thought God existed, my bet would be a pyromaniac one. Stars, Nova. Valid point. Valid point. But also, I would go with a God who likes a lot of space too, likes a lot of elbow room, because a lot of what's out there isn't much. So, yeah, he's pro adulterer too. Yeah, as long as it's David. Actually, when you look at like a lot of the sexual ethics of a lot of the characters of scripture, it's not all that great. So, I mean, you can have more than one woman as long as you marry them all in some way, shape, or form. There has to be some sort of legal relationship between you and them. Yes, this is one of the things about it. It's funny. It's also a death penalty offense if it's convicted, and both parties have to be killed. I thought that's always an interesting response to adultery. I think wasn't it? It seemed, yeah, it was Christopher Hitchens who said, adultery has its own consequences that are quite sufficient. Thank you very much. So there's that. Yes, he was a man overthrowing God's own heart. Valid point, Katie. Valid point. No male adultery unless you're riding somebody else's ass. Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Some primitive wanted it to rain, so he decided to kill his child at work. The idea caught on. It's that kind of convoluted cause and effect that is probably the cause of most religion. They did something. Oh, that worked. So that's got to be how it works. And then so they do it again and again and again. And that's very valid. A way of looking at how religion started. Yeah, you can make up anything you want, Tommy Gunn. Just, I'm sure somebody looks at those same stuff and it comes up with a completely different interpretation. You know why I know this? Because all my life there's been this nonsense. So, all my life. Somebody's, I lost, what was it, 88 reasons that Jesus was going to come back in 1988. Miss. So the guy wrote about, no, 89 reasons why he's going to come in 89. I was off by a year. Nope. Hal Lindsey, Great Planet Earth. Nope. Okay. I've lost track of it. And if they build a third temple, they'll probably build a fourth one and a fifth one later. It'll be that thing. Could be. I don't know. I just looked at how religion affects people's minds, and it's why I'm an anti-theist. Okay, it's like when you dwell on nonsense long enough, you start to think nonsensical things, and you can think really wild things, including about the lives of others. It's one of the reasons I say that I think as an atheist, I have better understanding of the value of human life than I ever did as a theist. Okay, so um, you get a little bit of utilitarianism in there, but it's not as big as it used to be. It's like, I understand that under divine command theory, human life is only valuable as God makes it, and God doesn't seem to make it very valuable. You could never be the flavor aid. Yeah, that guy. In the name of religion, how many people died in that one? It's like 800. Like, God damn. Yeah, the Bible, it's capital theft. Yeah. So, how do you know what's in God's eyes? Tommy, that is an arrogant statement that you even know what's on God's mind. That's just nonsensical. Okay. If there is a God, you wouldn't know anything about what's on his mind. Okay. It's got to be the most arrogant thing that you theists say when you come to my channel is that you somehow know what's on God's mind. I don't know how you would. It really sounds, I mean, Chapman makes it so God has dementia. It's like you're not making any sense, and that's what's on God's mind. It sounds like you're doing it and not God. So there's that. All right. I used to undervalue human life because my parents taught me to sacrifice myself for the better good of God. Now, as an atheist, I see like life wants. Yes, exactly. One of the things that Christianity in particular teaches you is sacrifice to the point of even death for others. And usually it's the religious caste that's getting the benefit out of your sacrifice. When you look at martyrdom, what advantage does martyrdom have for the person who's martyred? Nothing. Especially if there's no afterlife, then what you have is nothing more than somebody giving up something precious to them for nothing. And as an atheist, I now see the tragedy of martyrdom, that religion convinces people to end their own life for the so-called good of others or for the message or for the cause. And it's a real good way to get people to die on a hill that's useless. Okay. If you understand the military analogy. Yeah. So there's that. Yes. It's an old expression by atheists. If you can believe absurdities, you can commit atrocities. So it's just doing theist math. I don't know where they get this stuff. I'm conflicted about people like Tommy because on the one hand, I want him to roll because it just shows the absurdity of religion and what religion does to your brain. On the other hand, he's annoying at times. And it's like you're just annoying people. You're not convincing anybody of anything. You need to work on your ministry technique of how to convince people. But then again, that's like 99% of apologists. So if not 100. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Oh yeah, the only thing God's mind is his foreskin. Yeah, that's probably true. So 2,000 years till doomsday. So I got time. Is that what you're saying? Is I have time? Oh man. Yeah, the math doesn't always line up, does it? This doesn't line up. So there's that. Yeah, it sounds like the gospel according to Tim LaHaye. Yeah, I think Voltaire said that, and other people have used it. I think Carl Sagan was fond of using that quote. So, um, And I think he's the one that made it popular, but I think Voltaire is the one who said it. And he was still a believer, but he's like, he found the value in religious freedom. That was his big thing, was religious freedom, letting everybody be their religion without oppressing anybody because they held a certain faith. What a revolutionary concept at the time. Got him exiled and beat up and a whole bunch of other things. I think Rationality Rules had a good bio of him and what he accomplished. So it was good stuff. Bertrand Russell might have said that too. The thing with quotes like that is they tend to make the rounds. People, there's an old expression. I think Robert Heinlein said this, or somebody else. No, it's Mark Twain said it. The most original people are the ones that hide their sources best. So, I mean, if there's one thing I agree with the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. It's like we've come up with most of the stuff. We just find different ways of doing it. It's like but Mark Twain was good for that. He's like, yeah, the most original people, hide their sources well. So there's that. No, because belief in Jesus is a fantasy. It's just as much a fantasy as believing in Odin or believing in Zeus or believing in any other god you want to pick. Okay, because when you say God, you mean a certain type of God. What do you mean by that? And I will tell you, there's other God concepts that people believed in just as strongly as you do, and they're just as wrong. So, yeah, it's young Earth creationists create an interesting moral dilemma for themselves, don't they? Because they're trying to be biblical literalists, but they don't go too far with it, do they? Yeah, it's not flat and stationary, but all the other stuff that Genesis says about it is true. So it's like you're picking and choosing, because you realize that flat Earth is absurd, and it's why I don't really deal with it. I just think it's an absurd notion. So there's that. Hey, thanks, Grant. Okay, so yeah, it was Voltaire. Okay, there you go. And other people use it. I think Carl Sagan was very fond of that quote, though. He used it a couple of times. So let's see. And Chapman, the difference between almost right word and the right word is really largely a matter. It's the difference between lightning bug and lightning. Yeah. I love Mark Twain. He's such a superb writer. Good turn of phrase. Yeah, but you haven't learned anything. That belief and faith and stuff is all a scam, no matter what religion you do it in, including your own right now. So, Jesus killed a tree? Yes. There's a moral ethical thing for you. Why is it right for Jesus to kill a tree when it's not even the season for figs because he's expecting figs? It's like you don't even know how to do basic biology, Jesus. Yeah. And so the answer is to curse the tree and kill it. The morals of that is kind of interesting. Like if something doesn't give you what you want when you want it, even though it's not the right time for it, you can destroy it. I've always found that to be a very interesting ethical dilemma, because I can relate this to morality easy. It's like, how is it right to kill something when it's not even the right time for it to provide it? They only think they are. It's one of their delusions. So, see what I've been saying over and over again. They either try to say we secretly believe or you never truly believe. Yeah, I'm sick of it too. In my case, in this particular case, Tommy believes that I did and genuinely believe, but like many people, he believes I'll be back, kind of thing. There's that belief, and then there's the other stuff. It's like Well, when somebody tells me they're an atheist, they were an atheist and became a believer, I said, well, how did that work? Okay, what evidence convinced you? Because to me, an atheist is somebody who doesn't believe because of the lack of evidence for any belief. So what evidence would be presented that would change that for you? Okay, so that's kind of my thing with it, Mighty Filbert. It's just I get annoyed with it too because from my perspective, they're still, they're living in Romans 1 still and they won't get off of it. And it's like, I know Romans 1 is false because I genuinely don't believe. And so I know Paul is full of shit. So it's like, it's at that point, the Bible fails you. So, and I can't unsee that. It's like Dorothy and her three friends can't unsee the professor behind the curtain. You can't go back to believing the face mask blowing smoke is the great and powerful Oz anymore. You just can't. So I mean, once you've seen the evidence against it, it's kind of hard. And once you see that, the morality of the Bible disappears too, and then that becomes a completely different discussion with theists. So he mangled all of Mark's finer points. I haven't read that account in a while. I'll have to read them with that idea in mind, Grumpy Librarian. You've given me a thought there. Yeah, it's faith and faith. Yes, Yggdrasil would be with me. Yes. I like that tree better. The world tree is such an interesting concept to me. That's why I like Norse mythology so much, is that the concepts are just fascinating. Human imagination about the world when you don't have all the facts is amazing to me. Yeah, I think if you really are into atheism and you study what atheism's about, it would take a shit ton of evidence. I would literally have to pretend my seeing behind the curtain didn't happen. You'd have to literally pretend that didn't happen and move into some sort of delusional state where you push that all aside. I don't know how you could do that. I know I can't do it. So I've tried. So, I think you could go to a deist. You could oscillate back and forth between atheism and deism. I can understand how a person could be there because the deist God doesn't really do shit. He just creates everything and walks away. And, all your work is still ahead of you. So, oh, I can't remember. Yeah, you can go anywhere with bad reasoning. That's true. Who both said he loved to boast, what was full of crap. I'm shocked, I tell you. Yeah, I think Paul was full of crap a lot, actually, now. I look at some of his reasoning about some of his ideas, and it's like, oh, this is not even good theology. Hey, David. Hmm. Let's see. Evidence for me would be God poking his head out of the cloud and saying, I'm here. Don't see that happening. Nope. I don't either. I think that's the real issue is the hiddenness of God. It's from from a certain framework now, it's like because he's hidden, I can't really know what he wants. And we wouldn't be able to know anything about him. And it's not just a problem for acknowledging his existence, is why should I follow what other people say is the moral way to go when I don't even have evidence for the authority, the divine entity to give the command in the first place? And that's what most people don't get about atheism is that we've rejected this kind of authoritarian morality for one that is more in line with what is beneficial for the most largest group of people and or beneficial in other ways. It's really an interesting environment. And I think the point of this stream on Monday is going to be that just kind of pointing out that there's a whole bunch of options out here for people to follow. So it's not as cut and dry as people think it should be, and that's the issue. But we can still get to some pretty good morals and ethics and virtues and values out of it just by being good human beings. So, yeah. There's also the very active theist, but he's not here for humans. That's a thought. I can buy that. Maybe. You know, he's not a very good divine revealer, I guess. Jungle, you hope to be in the hospital over the holidays? Yeah, I think so. He's pushy. He's rude. Okay, I can see how he made Christianity the cult that it is today. I mean, I can see how he did that. He's the kind of personality that is good at creating religions. Okay, because he would just assert stuff, even, and I have to point this out to people because this is a discussion of philosophy and morality, but he borrows a lot from other people. Like his views on how to handle suffering, very stoic. Okay, and he just straight up steals their shit. Okay, and once I read some stoic philosophers, I'm like, damn, Paul got this from here. So so it's kind of like, okay. Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, you've always been an atheist, so instead of looking to, I looked into philosophy of religion and understood that all the arguments to believe were terrible. Yes, and that's what my problem. That's where my problem started. Was apologetics class in Bible college, because I'm listening to all these arguments for the existence of God and all this proof for the existence of God, and I'm like, this is shit. We got to have something better than this, And that led to a 20-year search, pretty much, to realizing that this is all bullshit. So I had a lot of emotional reasons to stay in the faith, and that's why I stayed so long. But yeah, I think a good example of a benevolent deity would be peace on earth and hunger. Even if it's not sufficient evidence, I'll take it. I'm not sure I'd take it then either, but I get what you're saying. I think that what you're saying is I would take it as basic evidence that there might be a God if problems got dealt with in a kind of a divine way. Like I've always pointed out that whenever theists like to use the fight against the problem of evil argument, they tend to use the weak sauce version of the problem of evil and just talk about suffering. And I'm like, no, you got to deal with the fact that God, when a woman's being sexually assaulted and about to be killed, God is sitting in the corner watching and doing nothing. That's the argument for evil. Okay. That he's not doing dick about any of it. Okay. And that's the problem. Thank you, Martin. Sometimes people just get too annoying. So, the clowns, I'd wear my Galactus helmet. Oh, there are so many things you could do if you were God to screw with people, isn't there, BS? Oh, I think he kind of does that if he exists. He's really hide and seek champion of the universe. Yeah, I don't get a lot of people yell at us for nihilism, that there's no point because that's the truth. But I've told people you can always find a temporal purpose for your life and live that out you don't need this overall arching grand design purpose. And it's kind of egotistical to think that you do. So yeah, I would agree with you there. The more I studied philosophy and mythology, I realized that Christianity had borrowed a lot. So so there's that. Yeah, I mean, if worshipers of a certain deity suddenly found all their hunger needs and they weren't, some of the problem of evil problems disappear for them, that would be at least good, good examples of that. So, mm, yeah, I would say, but I think Stoicism kind of has this universality to it. because of the ancient world being so rough and harsh. I think the general philosophy of there's nothing you can really do about some of this stuff, you just got to find a way to live through it, would very much lead to Stoicism. I think the nature of the world does that. I think Matthew understood Hebrew myth. I would agree with that. But he definitely heads a different direction with it. But when you read Paul and how he tells you to deal with people, how he tells you to deal with suffering, and you could have lifted it right off the pages of most Stoic philosophers. So, oh, so let's see. BS, and then I have a BS Lewis too. So it's all good. I have become a haven for the outcasts, and I'm good with that. For the people that don't always toe the line with all the dogma out there, I like having a variance of opinion because it sharpens me and sharpens other people. And having a cranky elder god in the corner kind of gives me peace and love and all that stuff. But I also want to thank Cranky too. Thank you, sir. Always appreciate the 666 donation. That's one for the week, so 19 to go to get where we want to go. So, so there's that. But yeah, I love having Grumpy Librarian is like I love him. Just a font of knowledge every once in a while that he comes up with. The people who are in my chat are I would say pretty smart. They know stuff, and they know stuff I don't. So, but yeah, they haven't changed. That's the problem. Skeptically pissed. It's like the problem I had with apologetics when I was still in the faith was that it's like you haven't changed the argument. You've just added a new wrinkle or presented it in a different way, but it's the same bullshit. Okay, it still has the same weaknesses. So there's that aspect of it. But there have been no new arguments about the existence of God for a long time. William Lane Craig thinks, adding the Clum aspect to the cosmological argument, but that argument existed before then. He basically ripped it off the Muslims. So it's like, okay, there has been nothing new. And this is the problem once you become an atheist. It's like, okay, I've been lied to so many times. How do I find the truth of how things work? And you begin to realize that things are a lot more fuzzy, like they're a lot more gray at the edges. So there's that. Let's see. Question my mother: if my head gets cut off and swallowed by a shark, will I get my head back in heaven? She said I have a new body and head. I asked, why did Jesus have holes upon his return? It's a great, because you're illustrating the absurdity by being absurd. And it's one of my favorite tactics with dealing with theists now, is just to point out, you don't believe in this over here, or this idea is ridiculous to you in this other religion, but you have the same idea in your own. And the afterlife is always an interesting thing about, because Jesus does come back in his mutilated form. Like he has a hole in his side where you can reach in. He has holes in his hands and feet. It's like, why would we assume that if we had our head chopped off, we would have it in heaven, at that point? So, but it's a valid point. It illustrates the ridiculousness of certain doctrines. I promise you'll be an acceptably tasty snack. I want to make sure I get your words into Cranky Elder God, because that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. See, the thing about elder gods is they're at least honest with you. That's why I kind of like Odin. Odin's an asshole, but he at least tells you he is one. So yeah, I thought you meant John too. So I got that part. Yeah, that's another issue that I've always had. Why would you reveal this great message to a backwater place that most people were illiterate? So there's that. Yeah, the thing is, Paul, me too. Okay, I know I'm doing something. I was on Godless Granny this weekend, and we kind of make an arrangement that I'm going to be on her stream on the 10th, I think, May 10th. So in a couple of months. So, but I don't get a lot of invites because I am kind of the centrist and wanting to listen to everybody. So, hey, dude, you're good. Okay, I like what you bring to the table. You've definitely brought up some things that I hadn't thought of, and that's kind of why I like having you around. So you are a good information source, if nothing else, and you're more than that. So there's that. Uh, yeah, I think that's why I became a Stoic. There's still some value to it. I think the main tenet for me, and I think it's helped to deal with my autism uh, in a lot of ways, is because when you're autistic, you kind of see everything idealistically, and Stoicism kind of removes that for you intellectually. I think the best thing I like about Stoicism is the simple statement there's just a lot of things you can't control, and you should focus on the things you can. And you can bring in some Epicureanism in there to give Grumpy Librarian some props for his viewpoint. You don't have to go out of your way to have suffering, like the Spartans did to train themselves to be great warriors. You can avoid suffering when possible, but when it happens, you also have a good attitude about it. So, it's not something I desire or go for or things like that. It's a good system that's lasted a while, and there's a lot of writers in it too, so it's well documented. Hey, Bren, good to see you. Yeah, I watched that video. I think it's weird, but it's interesting. You're right. The whole relic thing is interesting. I'm gonna have to do a video on relics sometime. It's something I'm definitely gonna have to add to that. Just hoping some of the chat smartassness will somehow permeate into me. Yeah, we do have a lot of smart asses here, but it's, as I point out, it's better to be a smart ass than a dumbass. So apologize to like photos on dating sites. It's really old, but sometimes they add a new wrinkle. Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. Oh, that's a perfect conversation. Shows how you view yourself and not knowing it. To make try to make Christians be like that. Yeah, I don't think. Good luck. I always love how Christians claim to know something they can't know. I really, it's amazing to me how people just claim to know what they don't know, and you can't really know for sure. So, yeah, just hang your head over the chat. It'll work. Trust us. Let's see. Most apologists' arguments are that you're not interpreting the Bible correctly, or you need the Holy Spirit to understand. Yeah, that's kind of their last go-to when everything else fails. I, as a theist, hated that argument because it's like we're basically punting at that point. And I told apologists that sometimes that we were just punting the the problem. And of course, nobody listens to you then. Now they listen to me, and the only reason they do it is so they can use those excuses. So, excusogetics is what we should call it. Yeah, you have to. I think with atheist channels, and the reason I've struggled with what you're saying, you have to branch out a little bit and discuss other topics. It's why I talk about deconversion a lot too, because the deconversion process is just that, a process, and there's different aspects to it. I also talk about other things. It's why I'm heading this route as well, talking about how to develop a worldview as a discussion item is also a good one for people who are deconverting. I think by focusing on people in the process of deconversion, I've come up with other topics and things to talk about. And I don't have to always talk about atheism all the time. So there's other things to talk about, the advantages, the disadvantages. Uh, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it, Bren. But the thing I have with relics is there's so much faith in something that's tangible but can't be proven to be what it is, and that's my issue. I'm not sure what to think. I'm going to watch it again and see what I think about it. It's one of those things I want to digest because it's one of those aspects of faith and religion I'm not as familiar with because in my former denominations I didn't have any relics. That's a Catholic thing, and it's kind of weird to me, and I'm having to try to wrap my mind around why people would believe it. So, because my problem with relics is I spent too much time, studying magic, like sleight of hand stuff, and so I know how a lot of that stuff could be done. And so I'm trying to figure out why people would even believe, why they need a relic to believe. Um, and it's just kind of one of those things that I'm doing. So, thank you. I recently asked a Christian upon receiving the Holy Spirit, does that make you more human? They didn't have an answer. Um, I would have asked them, does that make you closer to God? Or do you think you're more godlike than everybody else? Because as somebody who had received the Holy Spirit with evidence of speaking in tongues in my past, I would say that was, do you have any more power for ministry? Was the big one. And it's like, no, not really. I'm still as scared as I always was. So, mm, okay. I will do that, but I'm going to start researching the relic thing because I'm going to honestly admit I don't know the philosophy behind relic worship in the Catholic Church and why they even do it. Um, I've had discussions with people about it, but they've been very evasive. So I'm going to have to look into it a little bit more. But I'm thinking a discussion about relics is very interesting. I mean, like last month it was St. Valentine's and his little crown of thorns that grows roses every year. And it's amazing how that whole crown is out of sight for 2 months, or a couple hours before that happens. Yeah. Oh, yes. Needing the Holy Spirit. You have to believe in my imaginary friend. Yeah, I think it's deconversion keeps me because there's various aspects to deconverting, and worldviews are complicated. So they're that's where I usually head. But I try not to be a. It's why when live stream I said I got to talk about other things besides atheism and deconversion at times. So if you spend enough time to become a relic yourself, yeah, that might be true. Really? Oh man, that's an odd question. You know what? I'm going to go with the headless body for obvious male reasons. I can live without the one head, but I can't live without the other. So, maybe I don't know if I can do a voice chat. I'm like, but you can definitely point me in the right direction. But the relic thing has always fascinated me. I just don't know enough about why the theology behind it. Because to be honest, the Catholics are kind of guarded about that. So there's that. The relics are just symbolic. Then I have to ask a question then, Anne. Why do they still have such a big deal about it if it's just symbolic? Because it's like it didn't used to be that way. In the past, the relics were proof positive of divine power on earth. Like every relic has a miracle associated with it. And so it's like I has the theology of relics in Catholicism changed over time? Because it's just a really weird thing to me. So there's that. Um, Yeah, and that's why it's a running discussion on this channel. Deconversion is a rehabilitation process, and it takes a while. I'm still deconverting. I still see therapists every other month, every other week, I should say. So, thanks, JKL. Happy Monday to you too. Good to see you. It's all the pomp and circumstance show for the Catholics now. See, it didn't used to be that way, though, did it? And I'm fascinated about the past and what it is now. So, and so there's that. See, the other one had a supernatural thing to it. They said the saint had a supernatural ability. The bishop did. See, that's what I'm saying. Is like every one of these relics has something supernatural attached to it. That's why it's a relic. Okay, when I play D&D, a relic magic item is like this thing with a magical power, because it's a relic. And that idea is straight up ripped off from the Catholic Church. So it's the idea of the relic having some sort of power. And I'm fascinated by the subject, and I just don't know enough about it. But I would love to do a video on it someday. So, all right, folks. I'm over my hour time limit by a little bit because the discussion was absolutely fascinating, and thank you for it. But I do have to run. I do have to get ready for work. This has been a great live stream. So I think we're off to a good start. Next week, I'll probably have some sort of question we can dive into that's philosophical or ethical in nature, and we can see where we go with it. And but I just want to introduce this live stream. This is the first one for the Stoic Atheist, the name of that almost became the name of my channel, but didn't happen. So thanks for all of that. I appreciate all of you. Make sure you hit all the buttons, do all the things, hit the like button, get the thing noticed. And I appreciate all of you. A lot of things exciting on the Rabyd Atheist coming in the future. You've seen some of the artwork that's probably going to get edited after its initial viewing. So, and all the things that are happening. So thank you once again for your support. For everybody who donated today, thank you very much. That's 2 super chats closer to the ultimate goal of 20 for the week. So thank you very much, and appreciate all of you. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So you want to take all your time, money, and energy and place it into yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste it on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, guys, and I will catch you next time.